Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Dean's Beans and today I'm doing a very late edition of my monthly movie diary. It's so late this month because last week I did ranking every 2021 movie I saw and that went on for way too long. It took ages to edit, so this is later than I would have liked. But let's talk about every single movie I watched in the month of December 2021. Feels like it was a bloody ages ago. So I'll go for every movie, I'll give you my thoughts, I'll give it a rating out of 5, and at the very end of the video I will tell you the one movie I'd recommend and the one movie I would tell you to avoid. Please like, please comment, please subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's get started. The first movie I watched in the month of December was Doctor Strangelove, or How I Stopped Worrying About the Bomb. I'd never seen it before. It's from 1964 and I gave it big old 5 stars because I had a great time with it. For those of you who don't know, it was directed by Stanley Kubrick and it's kind of a satire about nuclear apocalypse and how world governments would deal with a situation like that, and it is incredibly funny. I think comedy, especially as a genre, is something that rarely ages well. I think most comedies from 60s or 70s you look back on and you don't find them incredibly funny. This is just me personally, but I think this 1964 comedy has aged really well. I think it's just as relevant as anything, just as relevant as ever. The satire in it still works great. The performances are very funny. The same guy playing 3 or 4 characters. And I just think, yeah, all the jokes still, well, most of the jokes still land for me because it's just a wacky, fun time. So I gave it 5 stars because it's intelligent and funny, and that's what I wanted from it. I then watched Encanto, which I did also have a lot of fun with. I think it's a step above your average Disney princess movie, which isn't a bad thing because so many of those movies are great. I gave it 4 stars. I thought the music was great. I thought the characters were great. The animation was perfect. It was very culturally sensitive, which is something you don't expect from Disney a lot of the time. It had some really interesting cultural elements in there and some great voice acting and all that sort of thing. Not much more to say about it. I think it is good. Okay, for this next movie, I'm gonna play a game. I'm gonna do an impression of one character from the movie, and you've got to guess what movie it is that I'm about to be talking about, okay? Just give me a second. Well, he's got me by the balls, Mamma Mia. It was House of Gucci, for those who don't know. And that was my impression of Jared Leto in it, being the worst Italian man I've ever seen. All seriousness, we'll get to Jared Leto because that's the thing that sticks in my mind about this movie. I'm not a fan of Jared Leto, for those of you who don't know, and this movie just encouraged my anger. I think this movie looked great. I think there was good cinematography and good lighting and good colour palettes, and all the outfits were amazing, and I think Lady Gaga and Adam Driver and Al Pacino all did great performances, and then Jared Leto was there as well, doing a very... Okay, my issue with this movie, besides Jared Leto, is that I don't really see the point in it. There wasn't a message. None of the characters had arcs. I don't know which character I was supposed to be rooting for, or which one I was supposed to like and which one I wasn't supposed to like. And that sort of thing. I just didn't understand the point in the movie because it was kind of all over the place with its pacing and that sort of thing. And Jared Leto was awful in it. He feels like he's acting in a different movie to everyone else. It was his 2.5-hour audition tape for you know, the Mario movie. It was horrible. I did not like him at all. Wow, the elephant shit in the jungle. I then watched The Amazing Spider-Man 2, a movie which I also gave 2.5 stars, and I enjoyed it more than I usually enjoy this movie. I talked about it on my podcast, HD Movie Talk. I probably did that the wrong way, and you can click up there if you want to check out that episode. It was a lot of fun. We improved the movie basically, and one of us likes it a lot more than the other one. I like it. Okay. Andrew Garfield is my favourite Spider-Man. Emma Stone is incredible in this movie, and I think the Andrew Garfielding and the Aunt May and the Emma Stone and all those elements are wonderful. They are delightful, they are humorous, they are emotional. All that works great. Electro obviously isn't a great villain. Green Goblin works when he's Green Goblin and doesn't work as Harry Osborn, in my opinion. I think he's a pretty good Green Goblin when he gets all up in the suit and everything. I like that element of it. To me, it was great action. It looks beautiful. It's got the best Spider-Man suit. It's got the best Spider-Man swinging, all that kind of thing. Absolutely great. But it's still pretty crap. So that's why I gave it 2.5 stars. Talking about a movie that isn't total crap, and if anyone thinks this movie's crap, then you can sort it out with me, and that's The Muppets Christmas Carol, which I gave 4.5 stars. One of the most accurate book-to-movie adaptations ever. Just direct dialogue and lines taken in the form into narration by Gonzo or Charles Dickens. It's wonderfully sweet, and all the ghosts are accurate, and it's just fun and innocent, and Michael Caine does such a serious performance in it, which works beautifully and wonderfully and hilariously, if that's a word. Just all of The Muppets Christmas Carol is one of the superior Muppets movies in my opinion, and that's really saying something, because the Muppets do a lot of good in this world for us all. We should be thankful. Thank you, Kermit. But December was not the month of Christmas this year, it was the month of Spider-Man. So then I watched Spider-Man 2. And I like it. I like this movie. I think it's really great. I think it does such a good job of showing the human struggles of Peter Parker and like his existential crisis and all that sort of things. Personally, I prefer Spider-Man 1. I did a ranking of all the Spider-Man movies if you want to check that out. But yeah, I think Doc Ock is an amazing villain here. I really like Alfred Molina's performance. I think Tobey Maguire had some real emotional stuff here, and I think that kind of element works better than it does in any of the other movies in this trilogy. Has a great message, and the world these movies exist in is unique and fresh, and like it has a style which I really, really enjoy. I really dig it, and overall just had a fun time with it. And then watched Spider-Man Homecoming, which I talked about on my podcast with Trista Rose and Harlan, obviously. And we had a fun time talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. I think it's a solid Spider-Man movie with the best Spider-Man movie villain of all time. Fight me for that one. Bam, bam. I should have stopped threatening to fight you guys. I think it captures this idea of a high school and like the struggles of teenage Peter Parker quite well. I would change some things in the third act if it was up to me with Tony Stark, but I'm not like an Iron Boy Jr. believer or anything. People who say that annoy me. And it's just a fun movie. I think it's the funniest Spider-Man movie probably, and I do enjoy it more now after I've seen No Way Home. But at this point I hadn't seen No Way Home. I gave Spider-Man Homecoming 3.5 stars. And then watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, my favourite Spider-Man movie. You would have known that if you went and checked out my Spider-Man ranking. And I just love this movie with all my heart. It's my third favourite movie ever. The animation is absolutely beautiful and unique, and each character looks great, and the way they pop off the screen and all the background, all of that is just absolutely phenomenal. Miles' arc is great. I love the scene with his dad. It honestly makes me cry every single time. Just the humour is there. All the different Spider-Men seem unique, and they give us 6 origins in one movie without it feeling too stuffed. And Peter B. Parker has a great arc too, and he's got great emotional backing to him, and I think he's funny and he's fun. And Gwen Stacy works really well here, and the villains work well, and the action is great, and just the aesthetics are absolutely phenomenal, and the soundtrack is just out of this world, and the leap of faith scene is probably my favourite scene in all of cinema ever. Like I said, this is one of my favourite movies ever, and I could talk about it all day, but I won't, because who wants to see that? I then watched The Death of Stalin, talking about very good political satires. The Death of Stalin is a comedy about the death of Stalin and the aftermath of that, and how much of it is fact and blah blah blah, who bloody knows, but it's very funny. I think the performances are great. I think the writing is really funny, and I think the way the events unfold in a very comedic but kind of realistic manner, because obviously it's mostly true. I think that really, really works, and it's really clever and funny. It's made by the guys who do In the Thick of It, for my UK fans who know that, the show of Peter Capaldi, I think, and you really do see that come through here. I had a fun time with it, and I gave it 3.5 stars. But now it's time for the big one. Then I watched Spider-Man Homecoming for the first time. I've got a review for it up there. It's up there. And the first time I watched it, I gave it 4.5 stars. Spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home. And I absolutely loved seeing most of the villains again. Green Goblin is improved upon. Dr. Octopus is improved upon. Electro is improved upon. Sandman and Lizard, slightly downgraded, but you know, what can you do with a movie with that much stuff going on? Andrew Garfield was amazing in it. He was phenomenal, and it was great to see Tobey Maguire again as well. And Tom Holland had a great arc. I'll just leave all my thoughts there for now, if that's all right with you. I then watched West Side Story, the new one, Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. I've never actually seen the original, full disclosure. But I thought this was really great. The music is iconic. I knew a lot of the songs, and I think they were well performed. I think the performances were pretty good, and it was shot and staged in a way which really makes it feel like a stage theatrical performance. And I think it had good twists, and the leads had good chemistry and all that sort of thing. But it was not as amazing as a lot of people are saying it is, so I did just give it 4 stars. I then watched Spider-Man No Way Home again, and I had an even better time this time with it, and I gave it 5 stars, because really I think what shone through this time was Tom Holland's great arc and Andrew Garfield's subtle and phenomenal performance, and Tobey Maguire's charm, and just seeing that character on screen again was great. And I think the supporting cast went well. Doctor Strange was pretty good. Zendaya was great. Marissa Tomei was great. Jon Favreau, as always, was great. Alfred Molina was mwah! Chef's kiss, and Willem Dafoe was one of the best villains of the year, one of the best comic book movie villains of all time, because the action with him in was just absolutely brutal. I then watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which was just a fun Christmas romp. Jim Carrey, you're great. This movie's funny, and really, I don't know, the comedy is somewhat intelligent while still being bizarre and dumb, and that's my kind of comedy, intelligent but incredibly stupid. That's how I like to describe myself, but in truth, I'm just incredibly stupid. Jim Carrey is just an utter ball of fun here. I then watched Injustice, which is an animated DC movie that came out this year, and it wasn't great. I'm not, super fussed by Injustice, the storyline overall, just because I'm fed up of evil Superman. Superman's one of my favourite superheroes ever, probably, second favourite, third favourite. And I'm just fed up of it here, that I'm kind of oh. But the thing about Injustice, where in the comics and in the games it works, because there are moments of true spectacle and, really strong questions of morality, which kind of carry it through and make it better than I would otherwise think it is. But the issue with this movie is they're trying to cram so much into 80, 90 minutes that they skip over the big spectacles and they just breeze past the questions of morality, which I really enjoy about the original. Just making it, Superman and Batman are fighting again. I bet you've never seen that in a movie. And, so I wasn't a massive fan, so I gave it 1.5 stars. The animation was good and the voice acting was good, though. On Christmas Eves, I rewatched Luca, and this movie is just a perfect family movie. It's funny, it's fun, the animation is great, the performances are great, the storyline has a message to it, and it's simple, and it's silly, and it's fun, and just all these elements work to make a great Pixar movie for me, because it works because it doesn't need to have some incredibly deep meaning. It doesn't have to make you bawl your eyes out like something like Soul is great, but not every Pixar movie has to be that. I want some Pixar movies like this, like Luca. So I gave it 4 stars. I then watched The King's Man on Boxing Day. And this movie was an interesting one to me because it deals with real life people in historical events, obviously. And because Kingsman's kind of a bizarre franchise, I kind of thought they would sully it and make fun of it and that sort of thing. But they don't. They portray the horror of war in a really real and strong way, which I found quite compelling. But the issue with that is when you're balancing that and you're trying to do something like that, you miss out on the fantastical and the bizarre and the fun element that the original Kingsman has, and that's what I think really drags this movie down. I think the performances are fun though, I think the action's pretty good, and I think the villain works, so I gave it 3 stars. I then watched X-Men Dark Phoenix, which I talked about on my podcast. Got the right corner! Yes! X-Men Dark Phoenix is a bad movie and does not deserve any celebrations. We improve it in this podcast, and I think we did a bloody good job, if you bloody ask me. And because X-Men Dark Phoenix is not a good movie, and just the villain is bland and the world is bland, and you don't care about any of the characters, and they don't really listen to what's happened in the previous movies. Literally what happened in the last movie is ignored here, and they just write out compelling characters for no apparent reason, and just it's a mess with reshoots. And if you want to hear a better version of this movie, then go check out that podcast episode. But I wasn't a fan. I then watched Don't Look Up, which is Netflix's political satire. Wow, I've watched a lot of political satires this month. Not this year. I haven't watched any in 2022 so far. And I really liked it. I thought the performances were great. I think the message isn't very deep, but it works. I think, it's fun. And what I love about Don't Look Up is, especially compared to the other political satires I've watched this month, it balances a very difficult line of being a bizarre political satire and being a dramatic political thriller. And I think there are elements of both of those ideas in this movie, and combined, they work great. And I think these two opposing ideas kind of blend well to create a fun, insightful movie, I would say. I then watched Death to 2021, which was real crap. Like a big old pile of garbage. Death to 2020 was their roundup of the year with like actors doing little funny bits and real life events going through. Oh, wasn't 2020 a really bad year and so many bad things happened? Yes, it was. We were all there. We know. We remember. And your political satire isn't... Oh, I watched another political satire. Your political satire was not very insightful or intelligent nor humorous. Death to 2021 was exactly the same, but the only advantage it had over Death to 2020 was that it was 10 minutes shorter. It was probably less funny. Like, the performances were bad and it was just, haha, people have pronouns. Isn't that funny? No, it's not. That's not a joke. You're just saying something. It's not how comedy works. And also, here's the thing. Like, they're like, hey, remember when nobody got vaccinated? Isn't that fun? No, it's not funny. Get vaccinated if you can. And if you can't, if you've got like a medical reason, that's fine. But just get vaccinated. And they need to decide what they're doing, because half the time it's, hey, this thing didn't actually happen in 2021, but imagine if it did. And the other half the time is, hey, Joe Biden's the president of America and he likes to take naps. And just either do like a political satire, just full out, like Don't Look Up, like, hey, look at all these crazy things that didn't happen this year. Or here's your other option, Netflix. Just don't. No, that wasn't the option I was going to say. That is an option, though. Just don't. Don't do it for 2022. That's my suggestion. But if you really want to, just either do a documentary on all real events and going, hey, well, there was murder hornets in 2020. Do you remember? Do you remember how, no, the world is dying and it's burning up and people watched Bridgerton and Squid Game? Netflix, just get your act in order, because sometimes you do really great things, like Bo Burnham's Inside, Tick Tick Boom, absolutely exemplary stuff, but then you do like Thunder Force and Death to 2021 and all this absolute hot garbage which doesn't work as political satire. Get your act in order, Netflix. I then watched The Matrix Resurrections, which wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. I think it had a really strong first 45 minutes. And with kind of like clever themes, and it's kind of setting up a message here that isn't clear, but that message is never really delivered on it. This movie doesn't have like a clear, to me, it doesn't have like a clear metaphor for what it's supposed to be, unlike the other Matrix movies. And the action is just a lot more I'm still thinking about Death to 2020. Are people ever going to stop making jokes about, what are your pronouns? It's bad. It's just bad. And the action in The Matrix 4 wasn't interesting at all. Keanu did a good job, but just there were so many contrivances, and it was a little complicated. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I gave The Matrix 3 stars. And then I watched Spider-Man No Way Home again. I've talked about Spider-Man No Way Home a lot already, so I'm not going to touch on that again. I did a full, hour-long podcast episode just talking about that with my co-host, Fuffy Duffy. The link's up there if you want to go check that out. It was good. Yeah. It had just the Green Goblin action scene was amazing where Aunt May dies. I thought that really worked, and he had the cool line, Norman's on sabbatical, honey. That's something I've kept saying to myself since. I then watched a lovely documentary. This is the last thing I watched this month, called The Sparks Brothers. It was directed by Edgar Wright. And it was Edgar Wright's style translated well into a documentary. I did like that element of it, and I liked all those cool little camera stuff he does. Well, I'm not even thinking straight. Yeah, The Sparks Brothers, I think it was a bit too long, though, and I would have liked to see more, just less. And then they released an album in this year, and then they released an album this year. I would have liked to see less of that. But it was fun, and like it had good people in interviews in it, and it looked really good. And I just love Edgar Wright, and I gave it 4 stars. And that, my friends, brings me to the end of December. I ended the year how I started it, in a rage. The one movie I would recommend in December 2021 is Doctor Strangelove, maybe, because I feel like that's something a lot of my fans wouldn't have watched, and I recommend it because it is quite funny and insightful and humorous and all that sort of thing. And the one movie I'd avoid, I'd give you one guess of what it is. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all for listening. Please like, please comment, please subscribe, all that good stuff. My links for my TikTok and my Letterboxd are down below if you want to go read my reviews or watch me talk more in a more calm manner. The thing is, I never plan these rants. I didn't think I disliked Death to 2021 that much until I just started talking about it in that moment, But, stick around if you want to see me get super mad again. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.